You've probably seen this headline in the last 24 hours, if not before. It's appeared many times on the popular and satirical news site, The Onion. It goes like this, quote, "No way to prevent this, says only nation where this regularly happens." In fact, today, The Onion filled its entire homepage with versions of that article that they have published in the wake of various mass shootings. And like all really good satire, it hits home because it's true. So if you're feeling a sense of visceral anguish, feeling that something is deeply wrong here, you are correct. It is just empirically, statistically true. America is a very violent country. It's been a very violent country for a long time. The rate of gun homicides in the U.S. is higher than any other high-income country, nearly 6 times higher than Canada, 14 times higher than Israel. When you look at the countries around the world with more gun homicides than the U.S., they are significantly poorer places. El Salvador, Venezuela, Honduras, nearly all are in Central and South America. And in fact, a lot of those places, particularly in Central America, are places people often flee from to come to this country. I mean, look at that El Salvador number, just like shocking and astounding. We also just have more guns than anywhere else. I really can't stress this enough, which is related to our level of violence. We're just literally off the charts. There's no peer. We've got 120 guns per 100 people. More guns than people. That's not true anywhere else in the world. Yemen is number 2. And of course, Yemen is a country that's been mired in a brutal and grinding civil war. It's not a country that people would consider to be right now at peace. And it comes in a far second place with nearly 53 guns per 100 people. So we're just a complete and total global outlier. Okay. It's also been getting worse and worse in recent years. So that's the other part of this story, right? Like, we're always an outlier. We're always a very violent place. But a new report from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives shows a surge in the number of guns manufactured in the U.S., with nearly 3 times the amount of firearms made in the year 2020 than in 2000. There are now more guns manufactured in this country than cars. In the wake of the horror we just saw in Texas, I've been thinking a lot about all the ways the government tries to protect children, which is a laudatory and understandable goal, right? I mean, there's so many regulations around protecting children. Regulations, I should know, which exist in all 50 states, conservative, liberal, whatever, right? Like, who gets to be a foster parent or even a nursery school teacher, who can work in a school, product safety for bottles, car seats, cribs. Stuff gets recalled all the time if there's the slightest hint that it might be a threat. Even teddy bears have to go through the Consumer Product Safety Commission. All of that, this entire regulatory regime to protect kids from harm. Like the strap you put your baby in, like that's got to be tested, and it gets recalled if it's not working. We do practically nothing on guns to protect them from being gunned down. And it has a natural result. It's this chart. Look at that chart. That chart says a lot. There's a lot on that chart. The blue line is firearms. Guns are now the leading cause of death for children and young adults in these United States. That's new, okay? For decades, it was car accidents. And if you want to look at this chart, the glass half full, which I actually do a little bit, is the top line comes down. We have succeeded in pushing down road fatalities. We've succeeded in making cars safer for children. We've got a lot of regulations, those car seats that kids ride in, right? At the same time, we have made our society less safe for them from guns. And it's also the case that mass shootings, like the ones we see regularly here in the U.S., they just don't happen with just anywhere near the same kind of frequency anywhere else in the world. This really we're on an island here. I mean, this was true even 7 years ago when the 2015 study found that, quote, despite having 4% of the world's population, the U.S. made up 31% of all public mass shootings globally between 1966 and 2012. And again, that's a previous era they're studying. Now, part of the reason is that when they do happen in other places, and there have been these like awful random events in other places, they tend to happen just once. After a 1996 school shooting in Scotland, the British government passed legislation banning most handguns. There have been no mass school shootings in the UK in the 26 years since then. Similar things have happened in other places, Australia, New Zealand. Well, here in the U.S., mass shootings are actually becoming more and more frequent and deadlier. That's according to a 2019 study of every public mass shooting since 1966. It found, quote, more than half the shootings have occurred since 2000, a third since 2010. So we've always been an outlier. We're an exceptional nation. We've always been a place with more violence. We've always been a place with more guns. But it actually has gotten worse in recent years as a sort of cultural pathology has grown up revolving around guns. A subculture that sees guns not just as a useful tool or a recreational machine or a form of self-defense, but rather as something you acquire for the explicit purpose of mass violence. Now, that could be mass violence in the form of rebellion against a tyrannical government, or mass violence as presented in many gun advertisements, which is encouraging customers to kit themselves out in tactical gear and pretend Navy SEAL or a member of a SWAT team. But that's what those images are about. That's violence, right? It's not defending your home. It's not you're out on the range. It's like the culture of marketing guns leaning into the notion the gun is there essentially for waging your own personal kind of warfare. That's the point of it. And that's a real shift. We are living with the results of that shift. Someone who worked in the gun industry for many years saw that shift, that change happen, and left because of it. And he joins me right after this break.
All right, Shalom, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash. Double honor as always, Thamyad to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are the true teachers of Israel today. Peace, love, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Habayath Madawadah, the house of David, the brothers laboring day in and day out to make their calling of election sure, helping seal the elect of the nation of Israel for the return of our Lord, Hamashiach Yahushai, is at hand. And to the Akya Wa Akwathya, which are the brothers and sisters who listen and believe on this glorious gospel that's being preached on the four corners of the earth, unto you I say shalom. So shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. This is the brother Sagalah coming back with another lesson all through the Spirit, Lord willing. This lesson is edifying for those that view the lesson. I pray that you have eyes to see and ears to hear, which is through the Rekak Kodash. So the premise of this lesson is coming from the video that was just played, and it was a few minutes, but I wanted to play the entire video. I wanted to play it in its entirety because there was a lot of statistics, and there's a saying in the world that numbers don't lie, that men lie and women lie, but that numbers don't lie. And this Amath, this truth that we have, is no lie in the truth. And I wanted to bring out, these numbers, showing that, these numbers are actually a witness against Esau, Edom, and proof that the wicked of the earth, the so-called white man, he calls himself, today, which he is the wicked Esau, Edom, is actually the wicked of the earth. These numbers are proof. And I wrote down and did a little studying on it and wrote down these statistics because they went by pretty quickly in the video. And I'm going to touch on these stats to show the proof that the so-called white man is the devil, is the deceiver on the earth. And not only the devil and deceiver, that he is the wicked of the earth. So now I'm going to start with one of the first stats that was spoken of, and that's going into gun homicides per 100,000 residents in the world. Now, America leads by and large, and in that category when it comes to gun homicides, right? And per 100,000 residents, America is double the next nation, double. Actually, a little more than double the next nation that's listed. And this is speaking of, the next westernized, so-called industrialized country. Now, when you go into being a westernized, industrialized country, there's always, an energy and verbiage that comes behind that, that America is the so-called leader of the free world, the industrialized world, the free world, they call it, right? So this is excluding a lot of the third world countries. But now, where obviously the poorer a nation is, the more violent typically that it is. But America is the richest nation in the world, and it's the most violent, by the numbers and by the population. So according to the population index and the numbers, America is the most violent nation by far. And we're going to show that through more of the stats that was brought out. And I just want to kind of go back over them again to show how staggering and how much that these numbers, show and are a witness against this man being the wicked. Now it goes on in the stats, to go into the fact that America, tries to push, and let me speak on this real quick, an energy that it is the beacon of light to the world, that it's the hope of the world. This is the place to come, to be all that you can be, to be the best version of you, a place to come to, build, a family and push forth, generational wealth and gain and come here to the schools to get the most knowledge, to become the best business person, etc. Because Babylon is ruling on the earth. So the energy and the spirit that it tries to push, which is mostly just propaganda, is an energy that America, is this beacon of light on the hill. And you go no further than the Statue of Liberty, which I have. There's a poem that's inscribed at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, which when you walk up to it, you can read it. And it's called the New Colossus. And the New Colossus, it reads like this. It says, not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, which we know is Lady Liberty. It says, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. So America is supposed to be, this beacon of hope to the world, where people have come here, for over 100 years on ships from different lands, primarily Edomites, because you Israelites, speaking of the Southern Kingdom, were brought over here on slave ship, and it is not voluntarily. They try to push that in the schools now, that like it was a voluntary, thing for you so-called Negroes, West Indians, and Haitians being brought to the Americas. But that's more the propaganda and the lies, and how America is being shown, to be everything opposite of what it promotes. So continuing on with the poem, it says, from her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air bridge harbor, that twin city's fame. It says, keep ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched, it says, refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And America was looked at for the longest time as a golden door. It was also, a country that promoted the Bible being the law of the land, which everything that we see in America, with all the violence and wickedness that it promotes, now America is being known, being uncovered, as it says in Isaiah the 47th chapter. This whore is being exposed to the world as a liar, as a land of great wickedness. These devils have raped, robbed, and murdered the world for all of its resources. And they are in the midst of all these nations, continuing to cause more and more problems and instability in the world. America is the mischief maker of the world. Esau, Edom, is the wicked. He's that stubborn whore, as it says in the book of Proverbs, who's loud and won't keep at home. So now that America is being revealed to the world, now when we go through more of these stats, you see that this man is the stats are a witness against him being the wicked. Esau, Edom, the daughter of Babylon, is the epicenter of wickedness to the world. So now, but before I get into these scriptures, I want to get a little bit more, just before I jump into it. Now, more of the stats go into the fact that America, Babylon the Great, which is known in the Bible as, is in the top 10 of all nations. Number one, it says, in the number of firearms per person in this population. Now, the population is believed to be around 350 to 400 million people. So in this population of around 350 to 400 million people, for every 100 people, there's over 120 weapons, showing you there's more weapons in America than there are people. Now, as I continue on, it goes on to went on to speak of the fact that it breeds violence, right? So that's why I'm titling this lesson, "The Sword, a Gift and a Curse," because this was a gift that was given to the so-called white man Esau Edom, and we'll get that here in a second. So this is a witness against him. It's a gift and a curse. So this gift of the sword, how he's conquered the earth, going all the way back, when you go back to Maccabees, the 1st chapter, great evils multiplied upon the earth during the time of Alexander, the Macedonian, known in history as Alexander the Great. So now we see that this gift, going all the way back, which was before that, because Esau was given this gift, and we show it in a second. But it's been through the gift of the sword that these devils have conquered the world. Now, some more stats that was, interesting was the fact that that guns, which is the modern day sword, is the leading cause of death among, children and adults in America now, right? When it comes to weapons. It also went into the fact that the U.S. has only 4% of the world's population, right? Per the numbers of people. But over 30%, which that number, and these stats were taken over the last 6 or 7 years, it was spoken of in the video, but it's believed that number is closer to 40% now. But it has over 40% of gun-related deaths. Now, all these numbers are a witness against Esau Edom being the man of sin. Now let's show that, through a few precepts, Lord willing, is edifying through the Spirit. Now when you go back to Genesis, right? Go back to Genesis, the 27th chapter. We're gonna maneuver through the scriptures, pretty quickly. You go to Genesis 27, and I'm gonna go right to the point in verse 37. These numbers are a witness against who the wicked is today. Genesis 27 and verse 37. And it reads, "And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy Lord," speaking of Jacob, "and all his brethren have I given to him for servants. And with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son?" Verse 38, "And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept." Verse 39, "And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above." So that's how we know Esau, is ruling and will be ruling in the last days. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Verse 40, Genesis 27 and 40, and by thy sword shalt thou live." And it says, "And shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck." Verse 41, "And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob." So this is going back to the story of Jacob and Esau, originating in Genesis, the 25th chapter, right? So now, a few things to unpack in there. For the first thing was that by the sword, the scriptures say Esau will live and his descendants. When you go to Genesis 36, it tells you that Esau is Edom. So when you see Esau, that's speaking of the people of Esau, right? The Edomites, which is the man of sin, the son of perdition, the devil, the deceiver of the earth, Shaitan, the adversary of the earth, he who is adverse to the Most High, he who is adverse to the children of Israel, which are the righteous. So now, as I continue on, this lines up, and I'll get the next precept real quick. It's the book of Revelation, the 6th chapter. So Esau, and the sword are synonymous. They're one and the same. The sword is the greatest witness against Esau, who the wicked would be on the earth today. because he was given that blessing of the sword, which is the ability to kill, right? And the actual modern day sword, that's used the most is the gun, right? It's the weapon of choice, the sword of this time. Revelation 6:4. And there went out another horse that was red. And horses are symbolic to power. So that red horse that had power, speaking of Esau, because when Esau was born, he was hairy and he was red. That's what Edom means, Adam. It means red. Revelation 6:4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him, it says, that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. So what was that power, that was given to him? Because it says power was given to him, that red horse, which is speaking of making reference to the Edomites, and that power was given to him to take peace from the earth. So let's get into that. So that power that was given unto him to take peace from the earth is making reference to this precept here. This is the book of 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 7. And it reads, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. It says, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. So the mystery of iniquity is who will be the man of sin that will be revealed by the prophets in the last days on the four corners of the earth. And that is a resounding 100% Esau Edom. He is being revealed to the earth as the wicked of the earth, as the mischief maker, the son of perdition once again, the lawless one, the man of sin. So 2 Thessalonians 2 and 7 again, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Meaning at the time when the Apostle Paul was writing this, Esau was already fulfilling his lot. It says, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. Meaning the power that was given to him, when we go back now to Revelation 6 and 4, it says, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. So the Most High is he who letteth will let till he be taken out of the way. The Most High gave Esau this power, going all the way back to Isaac, right? So from Isaac, and the blessing given it to Jacob, and blessing Esau with the sword, this was given back through Yahweh Shem Yahushai down to Isaac. So the Most High was the will of the Most High, that Esau would have, the dominion over the earth in the last days, before the rule of Jacob. Now, Revelation 6 and 4 goes on to say, it says, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. And that great sword was what was given, going back once again, that we read in Genesis, the 27th chapter. That great sword, which is, the killing, the spirit to kill, the spirit of being bloodthirsty and perfecting, the ability to kill. That's why today we have what? We have those nuclear ICBMs, those nuclear missiles, which that all came through Esau initially, even though other nations, have that weaponry now and have the technology. That was by the will of the Lord. But it's through Esau that great evils multiplied in the earth. And Esau was that red horse. Now let's show further the effects of Esau ruling, and the effects of Esau having the sword here and ruling on the earth in these last days. This is the book of Numbers, the 35th chapter and the 33rd verse. So Numbers 35 and verse 33, and it reads, so ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are. So with the rulership, with the earth being given into the hands of the wicked and Esau ruling, he's polluted the land. He's polluted America and the earth with his philosophies and wickedness, right? It says, so ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defiled the land, which shows you America is completely defiled with the blood of the children of Israel. Hundreds of millions of Native Americans, Negroes, and Latinos were killed here mercilessly. And the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. So Esau's blood has to be shed in order for it to be righteous in the Lord's eyes, as it says in the scriptures, in the book of Thessalonians, that it's a righteous thing to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you, right? And he that doeth wrong shall receive for the wrong that he's done. It says that in the book of Colossians. Now let's continue on. So the blood of Esau is going to have to be shed in order, for the Most High Yahweh Shem Yahushai, in order for it to be equitable, for it to be righteous recompense. That's the righteous recompense of the Lord, of the Most High. That's the balance of the Lord when you read Proverbs 11th chapter in the first verse. So now, as we continue on, the blood of these devils have to be shed in order for, it to be equitable to the Most High. That's the recompense. Isaiah 14:21. And it reads, prepare slaughter for its children for the iniquity of their fathers. So all the wickedness that they've done, which they are their forefathers coming back every third or fourth generation. So all the wickedness that they've done, now these Edomites have to pay for it because they've never paid for all that they've done to the children of Israel. Right? So now, as we continue on, Isaiah 14:21, prepare slaughter for its children for the iniquity of their forefathers or of their fathers. So slaughter is being prepared for these Edomites for all the evil that's been done to the children of Israel. It says that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. So the rulership of the Edomites in these tall skyscrapers is all over the world, in every known major city, in Australia, in Sydney, and all throughout. You see these tall skyscrapers. And the architecture of the Edomites, you see it all throughout Europe, Paris, London, all throughout Italy, Germany, and all of the so-called industrial world. You see it in Americas, Central and South America, the Far East, the Middle East, over in Dubai, and all throughout Africa. Everybody is doing what? Following Esau. So the architecture, the mere architecture and the way that you see the world following, Esau's rule, taking on his policies and everything else, is going to be destroyed. So they're not going to fill the face of the world with cities anymore. Continuing on, verse 22, for I will rise up against them, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon, showing you speaking about Esau, Edom, the name and remnant, and son and nephew, saith the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahweh. So the Lord is going to take Esau completely out, and this is how he's going to do it. Isaiah 14:23, I will also make it a possession for the bitter, a pool of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction. Speaking of those nuclear missiles, saith the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahweh of hosts. So that's how the Lord is going to destroy Esau's rulership, right? That's the way the Most High, chose for this devil to go down. So now, I got just a few more precepts before we close it out. Lord willing, is edifying. This is the book of Ezekiel, the 35th chapter, showing you, because this is the recompense, which this chapter speaks of the prophecy against Mount Seir. So this is the prophecy against Mount Seir, which is Esau, Edom. Is Mount Seir, which is the homeland of the Edomites in the ancient world. Ezekiel 35:6, it says, therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh power. It says, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Sith thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Let's read it again. Ezekiel 35:6, it says, therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood. So blood is being prepared, bloodshed. That's why it said prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers. So this is what the history is of the Edomites. The history is blood, so the future is blood as well, which is being dethroned in death and destruction. And blood shall pursue thee, it says, since thou hast not hated blood, because Esau didn't hold back the sword. Even blood shall pursue thee. So only blood is going to pursue these Edomites. This is the recompense of Yahweh Shem Yahweh, right? So let's get a few more. Let's go to Isaiah. Isaiah, I quoted it, and I want to get something out of there. Isaiah 47, I want to go to verse 10. And it reads, and this chapter is about Esau from the top to the bottom. It says, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. See, these devils believe that all the wickedness they've done is being, unveiled, which a lot of those things, some of those things are going to be revealed to us in the kingdom, right? A lot of the wickedness that these devils have done, they've done it in secrecy. They've used secrecy, as their main weapon. The fact that they believe that they would never be detected, or that the Most High would never allow for Jake to arise and Jake to be able to uncover all of the wickedness, right? Things that have been done that's in the secrets and things that are hidden in the Vatican and different places, so on and so forth. But all this knowledge is out because, see, all this knowledge was already recorded in the scriptures. And now through the Holy Spirit, through Yahweh Shah breaking the seals In Revelation, the 5th chapter, and the 6th chapter, it shows forth now who the wicked is, and all that the men of sin have done to destroy us is coming back unto him. Now, Isaiah 47:10 again, it says, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and knowledge, it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am and none else beside me. So Esau believes that his wickedness, his wisdom, and his knowledge, which is wickedness, the Lord said it had perverted thee. Now, what does that make in reference to? Let's go to the book real quick of that wisdom and that knowledge. The Lord said it's perverted him. Now, that's making reference, quick precept, to this scripture here. It's one of many. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, also known as Sirach. And this is Ecclesiastes or Sirach 19 in verse 22. And it reads, the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, neither at any time the counsel of sinners prudence. And the counsel of the wicked, their counsel is to do what? To destroy. When you read in Micah, the 2nd chapter, it tells you that. Matter of fact, let me get it real quick. So the scriptures say the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, neither at any time the counsel of sinners prudence. None of the counsel of sinners, of the wicked, is wise, right? Prudence goes back to wisdom. So now let's show that. This is in the book of Micah, because it says the knowledge of wickedness. Speaking about the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. So because this man, which is his pseudoscience and technology, he's relied on that. And that's perverted him, the scriptures say. Now this is the counsel of the wicked. Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand, meaning the Most High. He who now letteth will let till it be taken out of the way. The Most High gave him his power that he has to fulfill prophecy. Verse 2, Micah 2:2, and they covet fields, speaking of the Edomites, the men of sin, and they take them by violence. That's how they gain control of the earth. And that was through the sword, the gift of the sword, going back to Genesis, the 27th chapter. And houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. So that's the MO of the so-called white man of Esau, Edom, is to oppress, and to destroy. This man, the scriptures speak about in Revelation, the 6th chapter, is as death, and hell followeth him. He's as death in hell. He's that pale horse. And that's making reference to Esau. So the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. So let's go back. Let's go back to Isaiah 47:10. It says, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and knowledge, it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. Now I'm going to go down to the point and get ready to close it out with another precept or two. The point is in verse 12. Isaiah 47:12, stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries. That's all the wickedness that these devils do. The satanic worship, etc. Wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. And America's known as Babylon the Great because it's a conglomerate, a mixture of all different religions and ways of living, which is all really Satanism, right? All of it is praise to Satan, everything that's not the truth. So Isaiah 47:12 again, stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. Since the inception of Babylon, it was brought in with violence and wickedness and evil, right? Established through slavery and the killing of the Native Americans and taking of their land, and the Latinos, so on and so forth. And that's how it's going to go out. That's why the sword is being multiplied in these last days, evil, and it's going to get worse. They say that the killing in these cities, around, America is up 30 to 40%. At one point, when Jacob's trouble is here, in its climax, crime is going to be up 1,000%, 3,000%. You're going to see thousands of people dying in cities at a time. That's what the Lord promised. And it says that they won't suffer to put dead bodies in graves. So continuing on, it says, Isaiah 47:12, it says, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth, If so be, thou shalt be able to profit. If so be, thou mayest prevail. See, Esau is not going to prevail. The man of sin is not going to prevail, because it is written that the elect are going to win in the end. But Esau is going to do everything he can do with his sword, which goes into weaponry, biological warfare, chemicals, disease warfare, etc. He's going to do everything he can do. We're not ignorant of Satan's devices. We know that this devil does these things, right? Revelation 13:10. It says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. And who was put into captivity? The children of Israel. When you read in Isaiah or Salakia, when you read in, I believe it's Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, if I'm not mistaken, So we were led into captivity. Children of Israel were captive together, the northern and southern kingdom. Revelation 13:10, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So slavery is awaiting Esau. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. So the same sword that he's created to try to destroy the nations with, which is the ICBM, that same sword is going to be used to kill him, which is a killing instrument, right? It says, here's the patience and the faith of the saints. So the believers are patiently waiting. Patiently waiting on what? Patiently waiting on Yahweh Shem Yahushai, to send Yahweh to send his son Yahushai, and for the fall of this place to complete, utter collapse of Babylon. That's what and salvation ultimately. That's what the saints are waiting on, the believers, which are the believers. Now, let's show that in the book of let's get this precept real quick. We close it out. This is let's get this. This Deuteronomy 30 and verse 7. And it reads, and the Lord Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies, because we read Deuteronomy 28 and in Leviticus, the 26th chapter, it tells you about the curses that the Lord will put on his people, right? For disobedience, for serving other gods, not keeping the law, and etc. So when you read over to the 30th chapter, this is what the Lord says. Deuteronomy 30 and 7, and the Lord Yahweh thy power will put all these curses. So all the curses from Deuteronomy 28, Leviticus 26 that we suffer, it says, upon thine enemies. These curses are coming back on our enemies, right? And it says, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And these Edomites hate Jacob. And that's what Esau said. He said he hated his brother, and he was going to kill him. So now, let's close it out. I think I got one more. Let's close it out with this. This is the book of Isaiah. Isaiah, the 36th chapter. In the 6th verse, and it reads, it says, lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed. On Egypt, which is oppression, our people trust in oppression. Whereon, if a man lean it, if you lean on it, right? If you trust it in the support, it will go into his hand. It's going to prick you, which ultimately he's going to try to give you that CHIP in your hand. It says, and pierce it and be pierced by it, the trust of the system. That's going to be the ultimate piercing, is those that take the MAR 2K. You know what I mean? Right? That's going to be the ultimate piercing. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all that trust in him. And the scriptures say that, the believers have turned away from him that smote him. Right? And him that smote them was Esau. He smote the nations with a continual stroke. And he ruled the nations in wrath. So with that, I hope that was edifying to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. I want to say Barakatah Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Call Haloyim La Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. All praises to our power Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, who's the God of heaven and earth and of the 12 tribes of Israel, which consists of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and Israelite foreigners scattered amongst the heathen. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, love, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Habayath Madawada, and to the Akya wa Akwathya, my brothers and sisters that listen and believe on the glorious gospel that's being preached on the four corners of the earth. Unto you I say shalom as well. So shalom to the hopeful elect.